I appreciate you being here. I followed your work for quite some time. I actually got introduced from your podcast with Nate Green. So
Oh no,
I'm a big fan of Nate Green, and as you know,
I
his
got.
his content is scarce. So I found
Oh yeah,
the videos on YouTube, watched those, and I was like, this Luka guy looks dope. So I'm gonna check him out. So yeah,
awesome man.
it's
Yeah,
been
Nate's like man, he's disappeared a little bit. I mean, yeah, I love Nate to death, and like we still talk quite a bit. But he's like, you know, every once in a while he'll hit me out of nowhere, like, yo, I'm not doing this anymore. Now I'm with Sam Harris. I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
this guy's
He's with the Waking Up app now.
he's waking up. Yeah, he's no marketing for that. Honestly, I feel like that's where he should be.
Absolutely,
Where he's at. I think this is the right thing for him. So when he let me know, he was excited as hell.
I
But
agree. I
I love
agree.
that. I'm sure we'll have him on again.
Yeah, for
For
sure,
sure.
for sure. I love all your work. I love the what you do and everything like that. But just for the people who maybe aren't familiar, just real quick, just whenever you meet somebody out, whether you're at a restaurant or whatever, whenever they say, "Hey, Luca, what do you do?" What do you usually
Uh,
respond?
you know what? I got like 20 different taglines that I
Yeah.
probably use. It's funny because I was just doing not that long ago. We kind of finished, and I say not that long ago, probably what 9 6 9 months ago. We finished the new website for Vigor, and I'm a big fan of StoryBrand and Don Miller, and went through all that, all their courses, all their certifications, all that good stuff. And it was like, what's the tagline? And tagline for Vigor kind of is like, we help people change their bodies so they can change the stories to their lives, right? So rewrite the stories to their lives, which is essentially what and in fitness business, I would just change that to similar and go like, hey, we help coaches change their business so it changes the stories of their lives, right? And they rewrite it, and I think that's a pretty good explanation. Kind of tagline that, like, what do people, when people reach out to us for the gym or Vigor, in some way or another, right? If we dug deep, whatever the thing that they want to achieve, they want to lose body fat, look different, feel different, perform different, get out of pain, whatever it is, right? At the end of that is because they want to change the narrative of their story right now. Period. We all do, right? Anything you ask me right now, you go like, why are you trying to do this? Well, shit, like I want to change the narrative. I want to produce a different movie of my life. Whether it's business, whether it's fitness, whether it's whatever. So I would probably use that as a tagline.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty accurate. And because I definitely am a talker. Some people are like, man, I have a tough time talking. I'm like, I do not.
I've I've figured that
Not.
out. I've listened to a bunch of the podcasts and things. And don't worry, you spit some
Yeah, like
knowledge
I'm
whenever you
a
do talk, so it's all good.
you take me down the rabbit hole. It's a problem. But
Right.
so it's actually been good and important, to be able to distill these things into one-liners and paragraphs, and I think it's part of the issue today too, though, right? Because people are like, well, tell me everything in a sentence. Well, listen, shit, like, if you want to be great at what you do and be an expert, you're gonna have to read more than a sentence. You're not gonna learn really deep, great stuff from Twitter. And
Right.
not to say that you can't, find out some good stuff and it takes you down places, cool. But I think that's kind of some of the issues in coaching today, is that, like, oh, I don't need to read these textbooks. I don't need to study these courses and go to these seminars because I follow this guy. So
Yeah.
I'll be the best in the world. Like, good luck. Good
Right.
luck and take those. Good luck.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's what's interesting is that brings me to one of the questions that I actually had written down for you, kind of on that topic. It was from your recent IG post about becoming elite in the field, and the one that I really resonated with, and one that I am finding to be very true, is the one about curiosity. Right. And so you said how to become elite in your field. You said get curious, stay curious. And you said curiosity is the engine of achievement. So, like, do you want to speak on that? And do you think that this is more of like a natural thing that you've always had, or do you think people can kind of cultivate it themselves, or both?
I think we all have it, naturally, right? Now, what you're curious about, that can shift, and it can shift. I mean, this is kind of like where we can start unwrapping some things, right? I mean, it might like become a therapy session, Dan. But what was I curious about as a kid? I mean, well, I also was seeking a lot of significance. Is part of the reason too why I muddled and kind of dove into waters that weren't as good for me, things like organized crime and selling drugs and, things of that nature.
What age did you
Um,
do that at? Sorry to cut you off. I might do that. What age did you do that
I
around?
started doing a lot of dumb things when I was like 11, 12.
In
I started
Slovenia, right?
in Slovenia, yeah, but like at 15 is when I really kind of, I would say legitimately started selling drugs and, robberies and, just things that like, it's not kind of, oh, I went to the store and stole some Snickers,
Right, right,
right?
right.
On counterfeit jeans. It was like, serious shit. But I bring it up because, once again, I promise I'll kind of loop this around, right? But, what makes you curious? Well, listen, if you feel like you need to have power in your life because, maybe you feel like you're out of control, so you try to find control, and maybe you find control through, being in a gang or, being able to hold guns to somebody's head because now I feel in control, even though it's actually like driven from insecurity, right? So what makes you curious? Well, shit, maybe making you curious is like how to, break down a pound of Coke with baking soda and make it 44%, and like, these things that I know too much about, but right? Like, so there is a deeper kind of question of, what drives the curiosity, but we're all naturally curious. I mean, think as a kid, like what were you curious about? I mean, of course, there's superheroes and, reading about this and that and the other. And so but my curiosity, this is why I would say like basketball, and fitness really truly did save my life. And, because I wanted to be great at basketball. It was another one of those things. Like, look, I'm not, I'm 6 foot. Growing up, I was not a tall kid, especially where I come from. There's a lot of tall people, and play ball. I wasn't like this genetically, I didn't have these crazy genetics or anything else. I had to like work really, 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 really hard to even make, and I played for Olympia. It was like one of the top teams. So like, I mean, you had to like, we're talking about 10x, my effort to just get on a 12-man roster type of situation. And so,
Yeah.
And because of that, I was curious about, and how do I improve my performance? How do I get ahead? And, in this weird way, when I was already young, I was like reading stuff on strength training and plyometrics and like, how do I jump higher? I mean, I was obviously, which basketball, kid didn't want to dunk. So I'm diving into those things. And what I found is like, in Slovenia, when you're young, they actually make you read a shit ton of books, right? In school, and you got to write essays on it. Dostoevsky and Waiting for Godot. And like, we were talking about like all this stuff. And you're not necessarily like, yay, especially the amount of reading you have to do. So you can attach this whole, like, you have to learn, you have to read, and you're learning and reading these things that maybe you don't want to necessarily learn. But starting to read about things like performance made me realize like, wow, like, look, I just studied some stuff on plyos that I didn't know, and I started doing it, and I started jumping higher. Wow. If I dive into these topics, I can make myself better, right?
Oh,
Curiosity
shit.
wins, and then you start attaching this curiosity to success and achievement, and it drives you more. So, I think everyone is naturally curious, and you do have to pay attention to, hey, is there just something that's constantly drawing you in? Well, man, like maybe you should go kind of explore that. Does that mean like, leave your job and just, and do 100, 180 flip? No, but why not start, going down that rabbit hole? And that's, and in between there, what happened for me too, is I became too attached to, over the course of time, I was like, I got to learn everything. I got to be better than everybody. I mean, this, the chip on my shoulder mentality, which, has helped me in life for sure, but it's also hurt me. And it was like, I will go to more seminars. I will read more books. And it became this like, I don't know, it became a competition and a challenge. And, after a while I was like, oh, this is stressful. Like, this is not, like, and I was, I've been reading like 100 books a year for 7, 8 years. I mean, I'm very upset. The second part that I wrote was like, get obsessed, stay obsessed.
Yeah, yeah.
Still obsessed. But I attached this, kind of like, I'm gonna win in learning. It's stupid. This is not the best way to go about it. And kind of unraveled that, and just went like, hey, listen, like when you're a kid, like you're just curious, and it's fun. It's like you're exploring and you're finding new things out, and there's no end to that, and I think now, for the last, I would say 6, 7 years again, I've kind of fell into this. I'm just curious. I know I'm never going to know it all. It's impossible. The more I know I don't know anything, and it's fun. Like it's like I want to learn. I just want to keep learning. Honestly, in it's detached from like if I learn more, I am going to be more successful, make more money. I've detached it. Legitimately, it's like just want to get better. We are if anybody's read Drive from Daniel Pink, it's one of the biggest intrinsic motivators,
Yeah.
right? Competence, improving. If I improve my skill set, I get more fulfilled without any external, hey, great job, or hey, now I can buy XYZ. It's just fulfilling, period.
Yeah.
And so curiosity does truly drive so much of this. I don't, the other, on Saturday, not this Saturday, it goes in LA, but like last Saturday, I'm at home and I'm like, all right, let me do a little bit of studying and stuff. Like I got a bunch of stuff that I want to go over. And then I'll watch a movie. 4 hours later, I'm like, shit, like I've just been going over stuff for 4 hours. But not because I was like, you have to. I mean, it was just I got so into it. I was enjoying myself. It wasn't like, oh, this Saturday's wasted. I learned a bunch of new stuff. It was intriguing. And it was just like, whatever, I'll just go to sleep now.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I feel like that everybody has that in them. I just think that, you're looking through possibly the wrong lens. And, wrong lens is like, I got to learn this stuff because when I learn this stuff, this will make me more money and I'll have a better status. And I think it's the opposite way, right? I think that if you do it out of curiosity and this joy to become better, and more competent and more skilled, that all the other stuff will come after it. You know what I mean? And then it's not as stressful. It's not like this attachment to, because look, it takes time. Because what happens is like you learn, you study, you learn. And at the beginning, to be honest with you, it's not like just like all of a sudden you just made it. So if you attach it to like these markers of achievement and status, man, you're gonna get frustrated. I think that's what's happening now a lot, right? Like, well, I've been doing this for a year. Where's my million followers and million in the bank? And it's like, okay, doesn't work that way,
Right.
So I feel that it's a smarter way to go about it. When I say smarter, it means like you'll get more out of it, meaning fulfillment and I think success and achievement.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it as it's kind of like it's basically just problem solving, right? So it's kind of like a radar scanning for some type of signal on whatever you're trying, whatever problem seems most local to you, right? And whenever you find that signal of like, oh, this book, this person, this resource, whatever is helping me kind of get closer to that, I'm going to keep going towards that signal, right?
Yes, and I'm going to make a big pitch here for learning. Okay,
Go for it.
some people will be like, "Well, of course," but look, the reality is, I think it's I blanked on this, but I legitimately think that the average American reads less than one book a year. And I was just rereading. I don't know if you've heard of the Almanac of Naval Ravikant.
Absolutely, it's one of my favorite books ever. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, what I do is I read through it and then I just start it again. So that's what I've been doing lately. So
Yeah.
like third run through. Because I always get new nuggets and I want to brainwash myself with his wisdom. So
Yes.
but in there, he talks about, and I felt really good about it because he's like, yeah, that's my mentality too. It's reading and just like building these mental models. And for me, what it ended up being like a long time ago was, man, if once I figured out, I was like, okay, look, here's this person. They read, they've studied XYZ topic for 20 years, 30 years, have had success in it, and now they put all these 20 to 30 years of work into a book that costs, I don't know, $18.
Right.
It's
Right.
like, it's the craziest thing.
The Development Act is free.
Yeah, I mean, free. I mean, the ROI on it is $1 million. If
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
if you take a little bit of action. So, and it started being just this whole like, wow, like I'm getting inside of these people's. Of course, it's not the same as doing it in the real world and experiential, but man, like to be able to get these insights from the mistakes and the lessons and the wins and the struggles and obstacles of people that you aspire to be like in some way and had success in the field that you've had, to be able to sit down and read through a book in 6, 7, 8 hours, 5 hours, and to get that, it's insane. Like why would everybody not be studying and reading? especially when I meet people and they're like, I really want to get good at this. I'm like, okay, cool. What's the last, course you took? What's the last seminar you went to? What's the last book you read? I got a tough time reading. It's like, okay, look, I understand. I mean, there's different ways of doing it, breaking it down to just 5 to 10 pages at a time, audio books. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that we learn and that you can adapt to this. But to me, it's mind boggling that you wouldn't, because, what I started doing was I was able to, as I would study people and read books, I was able to like solve problems from a different perspective that I didn't have, like a mental model that I just didn't have before. It's kind of, everybody knows that what would Jesus do, right? But you start reading books, a lot, and like studying and like really, I'm a note taker too and things like that. And man, I was able to now go like, okay, what would Richard Branson do? What would Gary Vaynerchuk do? What would this guy do? What would Elon Musk do? What would
Naval.
Martin Luther King do?
What would Naval do?
It's like you start doing like these you start, and it's not even they just live in there. You just start getting these different perspectives, and it allows you to solve problems in many different ways. And I still do that to this day. I think it's changed a lot. Like same thing as Naval. I kind of, I used to be like, I have to read through this book, or I failed if I didn't finish it. But now I'm just like, I'm not feeling this. And I might skip forward to a chapter that intrigues me and just read that, or, I kind of flip flop. I mean, obviously the great books I read over and over again. And what I've started doing more is going back through, a lot of the top books that I've read and just rereading them. And they essentially are different books now, because I have a different perspective.
Reality's different. Yeah.
Reality is different. And so I would just highly encourage you to like, it's like zoom out, a 10,000 foot view, if you're listening to this, and just think about it, right? You want to get better at, I don't know, it could be like, you want to be better at like, you've sucked at relationships. Okay. And there's so many different books and people that wrote on that, or like stuff that you got to resolve within yourself to get better, how to be a better man or woman. Like it's all there. Right now, yes, you're gonna have to apply this stuff. It's not just like, whoop, but it starts. You kind of start brainwashing yourself in a sense, in a positive direction. And look, I mean, I am an example of it, because trust me, like, if you talk to me like when I'm 14, 15, poof, I brainwash myself into becoming a different person. And there's more than enough. And like, everything that we talk about training, we talk about, and now what's so cool is like, look, we got podcasts, right? I dropped like 4 or 5 or 6 episodes on program design. I mean, there's like, I'm not exaggerating, probably like 8 to 10 hours.
Right.
There's probably more than that, but there's like 4 or 5 episodes that are about 8 hours on program design. And I'm sure I'll do many more, but it's like, here's free hours, like 8 to 10 hours of how to do program design to get results. It's there for free. Just take it. Like, I've been doing this for a long time, like, just go. I mean, we live in a day and age where you cannot tell me, like, not in the US, you can't tell me that you don't have the resources. And I understand, like, I come from socialism, man. Like, I'm, I grew up in Yugoslavia, man. Like, and, it's like, I go to schools and talk to inner city schools and kids, and everybody's got this, right? Everybody got the phone, right? And it's like, why you're watching 3 hours of maybe videos on there about music and TMZ and dumb shit. You tell me you want to be a marketer? Man, there's literally 1 million hours worth of free marketing content from the best people in the world on there. Just watch it. And then go apply something, then go do something, then go do a project, then do an experiment. It's there for you. So it's really more about like getting clear on, what you want, like what are you curious about? And in matching, your learning, and with the desire to be great at something, and then just go, and it's like, and it can be baby steps, it can be huge steps, it can be, it's like, I'm a huge fan of Bushido and samurai. It's like in this thing called the 7 lessons of the Japanese forest, and one of them is, it's like be like bamboo, but one of those lessons is bamboo is always growing, and depending on the time of the season, it grows really slowly or it grows really fast, but it's always growing, right? And that's for me been a lesson. Like, look, life happens. Sometimes, I'm not reading 2 books a week. Sometimes I'm not going to 3 seminars a month or whatever, right? it's slower, but I'm always doing stuff. I'm always learning. I'm always improving. And then sometimes I go into these crazy like 6 month stints where I go through, insane amounts of learning, right?
Yeah.
Just be like bamboo and always be growing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's right there for you. You just have to, if I look at your calendar and I look at your days and weeks, and you're like, oh, I'll get to it when I have time. No, you won't. You have to. I mean, I have dedicated time to study, to reading, to seminars, to like it's become now a habit, so it's easier. But at the beginning, it wasn't. Like you got to put in your. You can't be like, well, today if I get done with everything and I do this and I do this and I do that, then well, then you're not making it important enough, And so that's how you get better. And I'm sure you've heard this stat, like just going around, like in some form or another, right? Like if you study for 1 hour per day on a topic, on a specific topic, for 3 years you become an expert. For 5 years you become a national expert. For 7 years you become like a world expert, like top 1% in that, right? And I mean, I, an hour, like I went for the first decade. I mean, an hour, like, forget an hour, like it was 3, 4. I mean, just crazy, and it's there for you, right? It's there for you.
Right.
So, if you're listening to this, like right now, I mean, shit, you could turn this off and go like, all right, I want to be the best in the world, top 1% in XYZ. Start now. And if this kick in the butt made a difference, cool. Like 10 years now, hit me up, let me know.
There you go.
Mission too.
Clip this right now.
Yeah.
Well, I love all of that, of course. I think one of the things that I had written down that I did want to ask you is like, as a fellow self-help junkie, right? Like it's what I am, honestly. And it's just like, for maybe people who haven't figured it out yet, and whenever you are a self-help junkie and you're trying to accomplish these certain things in your life, and then you surround yourself with people like you and like Jay Ferrugia, right? And just all these big name people, all these hyper successful people, and you kind of get yourself in this echo chamber of what I can find is whenever I'm not at a certain place, I can fall into the comparison trap very easily. And whenever shit's not working, I can get down on myself. That I still, of course, I keep fucking moving forward, of course, but it's like, it can still get discouraging. So what do you say about, I love having self-help. I love surrounding myself with hyper successful people, but it also raises the bar a ton, which I think can be good. But also for some people, what would you give advice to them whenever they're discouraged, whenever it's like shit's not working, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about in this scenario that come to mind right off the bat.
Sure.
I've always felt like, you could be in a tough situation, but if you're confident, it doesn't zap you as much. Kind of like in basketball, it's a good analogy for me, right? Because ball was life for me for a long time, was like shooters keep shooting, right? If Steph Curry misses 10 shots, if you ask him if he's going to make the 11th, like he'll be 100% sure he will, right? He'll miss the 11th one and he'll be 100% sure he'll make his 12th one, right? That's, but he's confident, okay? Now, how do you build confidence? Well, I think it's two things. One is competence. So as you get better at stuff, you become more confident, period. But the second one, this is the one that I think people don't work on enough, is courage. Competence plus courage equals confidence. Courage is like, man, this is uncomfortable. Okay, I'm going to step into that. Hey, like, I don't feel like I belong here, but I'm going to go do it anyways, right? Like that's courage, right? And so those two, and you read the books, like, do one thing that you fear every single day, big or small. That's part of how, it's like exposure. We've been cognitive behavior therapy, we understand this, like exposure, right? It's like you're scared of spiders. All right, well, we're not going to throw you in a pit and go arachnophobia on you, but touch the spider, right? And it's
right.
Like, okay, hold the spider, right? Like, and that's how you can't overcome fear by running away from fear. It's just impossible, right? And so it's the same thing. Courage. What's uncomfortable? Okay, do that, and maybe don't do so much that it makes you fight, flight, or freeze, but do enough to where it's like that 5 to 10% past your comfort zone. Where, I mean, it's the same way we learn, right? We learn like right past our comfort zones, 5 to 10%. If you go too far out, this is all study stuff, right? If you go too far out, it becomes challenging, and it becomes too challenging, and you freeze. Or if it's too easy, you get bored. It's the right amount. So the courage is the same thing. It doesn't have to be like this, jump without a parachute. Like, I'm just quitting my job and changing my life. It's not.
Right.
It's not that. I mean, Adam Grant talks about that in Originals, that people think entrepreneurs just make these crazy, like, I'm done with all of this and I'm out. But actually, it's a lot more thought out. I did it the same way. You work 2 jobs, 3 jobs. You play pro ball and build a gym and coach people. I mean, I was doing like just a lot of different things, right? Because you need, especially if you got a family, you got bills to pay, you're married, you got kids, right? Like, you can't make these crazy decisions that jeopardize, their lives necessarily, right? So, it's like the answer is, okay, every day, are you working on your competence, right? Am I learning? Because guess what? After learning something, most of the time you feel pretty good about it, right? Sometimes you might be like, damn, like, this is hard. But the thing is, if you keep learning, like, you're feeling good about yourself and getting better at your craft. Okay. So work on competence every day, but then work on courage, and like make it a thing. Like, not, I guarantee you most people don't get up and go like, today I'm going to be courageous, right? Today I'm going to do something a little uncomfortable. It might be like, man, go to the store and just talk to somebody, and in the business of fitness, man, you better be good at that shit,
Yeah.
Like, hey, are you afraid of getting on camera? Hey, man, record a video of content. It might look wacky, and you might be like, oh my God, I can't watch myself. Guess what? Post your best one, even if you didn't like it. Courage. We could go over 100 examples like that. Go talk to, ask a girl out for coffee that you like. You know what I mean? Like, and guess what? You might get rejected. Courage. Keep doing that little competence and courage, and you're gonna be confident. And then even when shit's not, I in the last 24 months, I could, ask me some times that like shit's not going good, and could be personal life, could be business. I mean, stuff happens. This is life, right? And I've been calmer, and I'm not saying that like I don't ever get rattled. That's bullshit, but in general, like, I can stay very calm in what most people would find to be catastrophic, right? But you build that up, and that confidence is there because of the competence and courage over for years and decades that got me here. So that's a formula right there. The second part that I want to bring up is actually was something that Viktor Frankl initially mentioned. And for anyone that hasn't read Man's Search for Meaning, it's one of the most profound books of, I think, our time when it comes to psychology.
Yeah.
And he called this positive anxiety. And positive anxiety was, most people live in, Naval talks a lot about this, like, true presence, right? The peace, peace equals happiness, like, and you're peaceful when you're present. Because most of, anxiety comes from thinking about something that hasn't happened yet, and you're afraid of what will happen. Stress comes from, thinking about things that have happened, and you can't really change them, but you still hold on to them. And like, being present is where peace is at. But I'd like to also kind of attach something else to that, which is, what Viktor Frankl was talking about is like, there's I think it was Dan Sullivan that initially called it the gap, right? The gap is this place like where you're always looking to achieve something, right? And then, okay, let's make money. All right. And Fit Pros is like, when I make 10 grand a month, right? And you make 10 grand a month, then what? Or then you want to make 12 or something else, right? But now I want to work less. Okay, cool. Then. But the thing is, there's always a gap between. It's like the horizon, right? You get there, it was always moving. You never really get there, and people can be successful per se and always be stressed out, right? Because they are basically like, I'm here. Okay, now the next thing. I got a bigger house. Now I want this. Now I want that. Now and it's just never ending. And it actually kind of really creates a lot of like, is this what life is about type of scenarios, right? Well, positive anxiety, what Viktor Frankl was talking about is like, one, let's say you're standing here kind of like in the middle. You're always looking forward, or no, start looking back. That's another way of how you can basically go, hey, look, let me see what I've achieved, right? Let me see where I've come from in the last year, right? Damn, you know what? It was a tough time. Maybe, the business didn't have its best year, but we're still here. Man, like 13,000 gyms closed down. Millions of businesses closed down. Suicide rates have gone up. Like, we're here. I'm physically healthy. Actually, look at I did this and I did this and I shot this many podcasts and we did this and we launched this and right. What does that do? I'm like, man, I'm doing this stuff. Hey, I'm fit. I'm healthy, man. I'm probably the fittest I've been in a long ass time. Right? What are your wins? Right? So like you start going and acknowledging your successes, acknowledging your wins. And the thing is like, so now you're looking at the gap behind you and going like, okay, let's go. Right. And you still look at the gap ahead and go like, this is what I want to achieve. Right. You still should strive for achievement, but like now you have this kind of, I would say, foundation of like, I've already done these things. So I have confidence that I can also do these things. Right. And that's called positive anxiety. It's that Viktor Frankl called it. And I think that's very, very important. Like sometimes, man, like I have, I have like wild big dreams, right? Like scary stuff. And some days you're like, just, you're getting beat down and like, man. And there's nights where like, I'll just sit in the middle of the gym, and I'm like, I come from a place like there was nothing. Like when we built the gym in Slovenia, it didn't even exist. Functional training gyms didn't exist. Like, and I say functional training gyms with
right, of course,
just for people that I'm sure people understand what I'm trying to say. But
yeah,
it did. We built it. Like that was my vision. It was my idea. Consultants were telling me like this won't work. The reason there is none is because there's no, basically demand for them. And I was like, you're wrong. We built it in like 15 years strong, bigger ground in Slovenia. You know what I mean? Like and no matter what like the shutdowns there are worse. They're
right.
going another shutdown right now in Slovenia, like tomorrow. They're killing us with it, but we're still there. We're still strong. We're still the number one educational, essentially, gym in the country. And I came here, started from scratch, nothing, like no investors, no nothing. And here we are, you know what I'm saying? And I say that like not to, and you got to be careful about that because some people are like, oh, I don't want to toot my own horn. No, but you have to. There's a difference between arrogance and like going and looking back through the gap. And I sit here in the gym and I'm like, I built this, we built this.
Yeah. Right? Objectively, like, it's objectively true.
It's factual.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's factual, like with nothing, not like I said, it was from scratch, from the ground up. I mean, as much, as much of it, I was telling a friend, I was like, man, like, it's a powerful story. Like Vigor Ground represents like, when we chose the name too, if you look up Vigor in dictionary, it's physiological and psychological evolution. It is. And it's energy, it's power, not like personal power, right? So Vigor Ground, it was like, man, where things like change and transform and evolve. And, the story of Vigor is the story of that we're trying to essentially instill in others, like their own transformation, right? Forever growth. And I sit there because sometimes I need that, like, man, it was a grind, but like it was a hustle, but we're here. This happened. Whatever the next iteration is, we can do this, right? And so I think that's important. People need to. And so let me put this in practical terms, because I know, like, I hate, I'm a storyteller and I love stories and but like I don't like to live in the ether too much, because then people are like, wow, that was powerful. Okay, give me something practical.
Clouds and dirt,
clouds and dirt, baby. Exactly. So like, give me something I can actually do practical. Is like, and what's practical is like writing out your wins for the day. At the end of the day, what are your 3 wins? What are your 5 wins? Like, I don't give a shit how small they are. Man, I caught up with a friend for coffee. It was a great time. Like, I haven't talked to him for a long time. Win. Got my workout in, even though it was 45 minutes. Man, it was a crazy day. Win. Okay, I studied for 30 minutes. Win. Boom. Do you think that at the end of the week, if you write down 3 wins per day, 7 days a week, 21 wins, are you going to feel more confident or less confident? Come on. Trust me. I know this from experience, and it's not like I invented this. You know what I mean? Like, my superpower is learning from the smartest people on the planet and absorbing it. That's my superpower.
Right.
Like, hey guys, like, here's what I created. But my point is like, do that. Like, look, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Right. Write down 3 to 5 wins every single day at the end of the evening, and like for the next 14 days. Let me know how you feel. Right. And guess what's going to happen? Like, you focus on success. It builds you up. Right. And it's like Charlie Rocket was talking about this. By the way, like, I go all over the place because there's a 1 trillion references.
I'm letting you go, man. Letting you go. Go for it.
And, he was talking about paranoia and pronoia. By the way, pronoia is a real word. Look it up.
Okay.
Sounds fun. Pronoia. This is your new word for the day. All
There we
right,
go.
speak new words, guys. Uh, I go in a dictionary often, find new words that I can use. But so paranoia is like when you're kind of like paranoid about like honestly, it's like you think that things are working against you, like the universe is going to work against you, right? And one of the ways that this can happen is, example, you start the day. My day today, by the way, without going into details, shit shows. So I hear some things, stuff happen, and then one of the things that can happen is you start going like, oh, there we go. It's going to be that type of day, right? So what you just did is like now you're in that mindset, right? You're going to start looking for things to support your belief, right? You're looking for, see, fucking knew it. Like, that guy's annoying the shit out of me. Oh, look, the fucking weights are on the floor. God damn it, right? Like, it's like, and all of a sudden, like, you're in this headspace and you're just looking for things to support the belief that your day is going to be shitty, right? To me, pronoia is like belief that like the universe is conspiring to help you out. Now, look, this is no foo-foo the secret type stuff. It really just becomes around like perspective and mindset, right? Like, because what if I start looking about, hey, great job, Jess. I saw how you handled that client, man. This was awesome. Bro, I'm looking for good things now. Guess what? I'm gonna find them, right? And it's part of it is awareness to find yourself going like, ooh, earlier I was like, yo, I'm in a shitty headspace. All right, let me shift this, right? And then, first of all, right, you have to be aware to be able to change. And to me, pronoia is that like you're looking for things to support your positive belief system of achievement. Like, hey, listen, I'm going to build this. This is going to happen, right? And it doesn't mean that like you don't believe in negative things happening or you have shitty moods or go like it's not that. It's just that like we know that if you're more positive, right? Like what we know is this. Okay, this is proven. We know if you have a negative mindset that that's not good for success, happiness, wealth, fitness. It's not. It's proven, right? And most likely, being more optimistic is a much better choice. So if we know 100% for sure that having a negative mindset is not going to help you out, then do everything that you can to flip that, to switch that, and work on positive mindset, right? And once again, let's get practical here. I've shared this on quite a few podcasts, but you know what? I don't care if one new person learns this; it's a win. It's called positive focus. I also think this is a Dan Sullivan practice, if I'm not mistaken, to give homage to who I learned it from. But positive focus is taking an event most of the time that was negative, and I did this for like I think 120 days straight. First time when I went through Warrior, and so I would take an event from the day before or from the week that is essentially construed as a negative event, right? I don't know, like we lost 3 members this week,
Sure.
right? Okay, great. So then you go through what, why, lesson, apply. So it's a really easy little rhyme. Like what happened, right? What happened? We lost 3 members. You attach 0 emotion to it, right? Second question, why is it positive? Right? This is where your brain will go like, it's not positive, Luka. No, but why is it positive? Right? And here's the thing is, if I ask myself a question, I have to find an answer. Okay, yeah, why is it positive? Well, they're all left for the same reason. Well, it's positive because it's given us insight on something we can improve. Bam, positive. Lesson, what's the lesson? A complaint is a gift. An obstacle is a gift. It can be, right? If you learn from it. So I always, the lesson I always say, what would you write on a shirt, right? It's the tagline. So what happened? Why was it positive? Number 3, what's the lesson you put on a shirt? And then apply is, we used to do, and I still do some of this, is like, okay, now how can you apply this into the 4 areas? Body, your physical being, like spirituality, balance, relationships, and business, right? How can you apply that into your business? And essentially what we're doing here, the practice is that we're taking something that most people will be like, that is a negative event. And then we're finding a positive out of it. And we're not only finding the positive, we're finding a lesson that we can apply to all areas of our life. So it becomes compounded, right? This lesson is now, and you're writing these things out. So you're seeing them. You actually have to process them. Now, once again, prove me wrong, do that for the next 2 months and see how your mindset starts shifting. I found that like what would happen is that when these negative things would happen, I would the gap of my being annoyed and focusing on the negative just started going. It just shortened, right? Like it was just be like, I mean, and you probably know people. I know people. I know myself at times where things would happen. It could affect me for weeks. Some people get affected for life, months, but it started going down to days and then hours. And then, I mean, obviously, look, depending on how challenging the thing that happened is, of course, it's not going to all be the same. But what happens is like, can I get ahead in life much faster if it takes you essentially, weeks to get over something? If you even get over it, it's constantly like living, got rent in your head, but I get over it in 2 hours. And not only do I get over it, I actually found a positive out of it that I can apply now and move forward. Right? It's a game changer. Right? It's a game changer. Like this, and this is what's so crazy because I'm a obsessive person when it comes to also performance training and things like that. And I feel like I'm about to be 40 like here in 2 months, I think. Yeah. But I feel like I'm training with the pros and talking shit because I'm like,
right,
you guys can beat me, bro. This is hilarious. Step your game up. But and I pride myself on that. But I also know, and obviously things have changed. I want to feel good. I want to have joint pain. I want to have longevity. I've shifted my training around for those purposes. But there's a limit. Like there's a limit to our physical. Like I'll never have a 50-inch vertical, and I'll never run a 9 meters. I mean, I should say 9 second 100 meters. Will anybody? Like who knows, right?
right.
We're just saying we all understand there's physical limits, and we can keep pushing those, right? We can keep pushing to see, but there's physical limits. But here's the thing: what's the mental limit? There is no mental limits. There's no mindset limits. What's the limit? Right? I mean, I was in Croatia with one of the top brain guys on the planet, right? I mean, we're talking about best of the best of the best of the best. And, studied the brain his whole life. And he's like, we don't really know much about the brain, And of course, there's always somebody that's like, well, Luka, let me tell you about the brain. So listen, I talked to one of the guys that's been studying it for like 30, 40 years, says we don't know much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you tell me in four bullet points.
In a tweet.
But the point being is that like, this here is like, you can forever ever train it. You can train. I said mental weightlifting, physical weightlifting, mental weightlifting, emotional weightlifting. I just think people don't focus on it, and
it's a refinement too over time, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's like, but if you ask the smartest folks and like I said, neurologists and brain scientists and like, they'll be like, well, we don't really know what the mental limits are. I mean, of course, you watch movies and telepathy and moving shit, I was telling Faruja that I was at his place for New Year's. I swear I moved the bang bottle with my mind. I also was on the edible, but I to this day, you will not convince me otherwise. It went like, it was here, I didn't touch it, and it went there. Yeah, you can ask him this.
Dude, you know what happens sometimes is there's condensation. The water is on the bottom of it on a slippery surface on the table, and then it moves by itself.
The first thing I did was check that. And I was
really?
Like, this is actually a very, very funny story for another day. But I still am 100% convinced that something happened, and I'm trying to figure it out. But my point being, maybe that was that next, showing me the next level of what I can do with my mind. But it's I think that's powerful. I think it's powerful that like we can do that, and we started with learning. And learning is part of that. Learning is part of that. Like there's such smart folks, and perspectives. And in Naval's book, he says, well, here's 3 things that he said. How to be happier. There's a whole list, but I'll also there are 3. By the way, if you hear the train in the back, the Boeing train in the back,
it's all good.
Is one, he said, stop hanging around with unhappy people, right? And that might sound harsh, but I do agree with that, right? If you hang around people that are negative, unhappy, I promise you that you definitely won't feel better. 2 is like, hey, hang around, happier people, right? Absolutely. Have a different perspective on life that, once again, something negative happens, but they have a different outlook. It's a better outlook, right? Number 3, I mean, definitely fitness. Of course, we're fitness people and nutrition people, so we can pitch that. But then read philosophy. I'm big on like reading Stoicism. I mean, honestly, I've read just about every religious work. The Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, the Bible. I say Breakfast with Buddha. I mean, you name it, man. Like because you're just looking at all these perspectives. But I love reading Stoicism. Stoicism has been phenomenal for my mind and my calmness.
Especially during COVID.
Yes, actually, it was one of the top tips I said. I said, listen, I don't know what your beliefs are. And of course, like I don't care what religion you are. Stoicism has nothing to do with it. It's just a perspective of
Right.
way of operating, essentially. And but I read Stoicism every single day. The more stressed I was, the more I read it, the calmer I was. And I felt that was actually a really, really good buffer for the crazy times as well, amongst other things like eating right, training, keeping schedules, stuff like that. But and it's like you'll find these points of we argue about a lot of stuff, but I would say a lot of smart, productive, happy people have many things that they have in common, and you just have to learn to kind of like read between the lines and once again study, and you'll find them, and then like start using them. I also think that you got to find your own stuff. I did this for a while and I realized it didn't work as well for me. Everybody's got their own ritual. Every week I get at least a couple people to go like, "What's your morning ritual, man?" And it's like, man, it's not what you think. It's not what it used to be either. Because I did all these things for a while because it's like, I was in all these coaching programs and mentorships and so on and so forth. And, I'm like, man, like my morning ritual is like an hour and a half. What the hell's going on? I'm tired from this shit. Where now it's more like, all right, get up, put some like positive there, like to listen to. It could be like a lot of times music. I'll do 5 to 10 minutes of movement stuff, just get the joints lubricated. For me, it's important because my back, which feels great, but like I gotta make sure I do stuff so it keeps feeling great.
Mm-hmm. You're 40, bro. You're 40. No, I'm just messing.
I'll send some pictures of flying ninja kicks to make sure that 25, baby, I'm 25.
There you go.
But it's like from there, like I'll crack open an energy drink already. Might write down a good amount of times. I'll be like, hey, write down things I'm grateful for, what I'm excited about for the day, and I gotta schedule and shit to do, and I'm rocking and rolling. And then for lunch, not every day, but I'll try to meditate, for 5 to 10, do a little reset. But it's not, because people are like, man, I go, and here's the thing, if it works for you, please do it. Like there's so many, I'm absolutely not judging it. And I'm still, figuring out if there's better ways for me to do things. But it's like, do this, meditate, do, cold shower, go for a walk. And it's like, man, I like getting shit done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it makes me feel good. But I still, I still get my movement. I still get my training. I still go for a walk. But like, find your thing. Don't necessarily just always buy into. If you're doing something that somebody said and it's like just not working out for you, like it's not necessarily that there's something wrong with you. Maybe you just shift it a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What feels good, keep that. Be Bruce Lee. What's useful.
Right.
Discard what's useless. Make it your own. And that's what's so cool about studying things is that you find, you also find like people like you, because sometimes it can be like, man, like I'm not like that, I'm not an early riser, and I did it for a long time. I went for a long time, obviously working like a maniac, sleeping 3-4 hours a night, highly unrecommended, by the way. But and I would wake up in the morning because I had to, right? But as soon as I didn't, it was like I'm more of a night owl, and you can
same here.
Find this. I would say also, it's been written about larks and night owls and how we've developed over evolution. Some I would say tribes, people would stay up to protect the tribe that was sleeping, and they go to sleep later. And over thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of years, it get embedded in our DNA. And like I do better that way. Now, I'm trying to figure it out and go like, what, if I do wake up at like 6:37, I do get more shit done. Let's find a happy medium. Like you're always just learning. But, for a while, people are like, man, if you're not waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, man, like you're falling behind. I'm like, I don't know about falling behind. Like I get a lot of shit done. Like I get more shit done than most people do in a month sometimes. Like, but it's easy to be, compare and contrast and go like, oh, there's something wrong with me. Like, should I be getting up even earlier and then I'd be more successful? It's a slippery slope. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like if you study mental models, you'll find different mental models and some that like fit you better than others.
Gary Vee was talking about, he's like, it doesn't matter how many hours you sleep, it's what you do while you're awake.
Very true. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And like, hey, I'll tell you that like I've become 10 times more productive in the last 15 years That's probably one of the places I have more room than anything else, outsourcing more things, working on things that are my genius more. I like to be very, very transparent about stuff, man, because we live in a world right now, and I'm like uh, a coach and, supposedly known, whatever the hell that means these days, you know what I mean? Like, and I consult a lot, and, the business coach. And it's very easy to be like, well, you got all your shit together. And I actually like to talk about the obstacles that I have, right? Because it's real. Because it's like, I promise you, the billionaire that won the $100 million, everybody's got problems. And honestly, a lot of them, some of them are massive, massive problems, right? But you go like, oh man, they're the shit, and they got it together, and they got a plane and whatever, man. Like, everybody's got stuff. And so I like to also talk about those things because, hopefully what it does, it makes people go like, damn, like, he's struggling too. Well, yeah, like, you're always problem solving. There's always stuff going on. I can tell you, like, 10 things right now that I'm working on that I want to improve in the business for me personally, things we're fucking up on. I mean, I can also tell you, from here, all the stuff we need to do. Does it mean that we're doing it yet? No, because it's like taking it from theory to reality is like, okay, well, sometimes it's not the how, it's the who, right? It's who do we need to put in this place? What system? How do we keep them accountable? They're
And
right there.
what's most important right now? Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's important to share because, obviously with the rise of social media, it's like you're just watching highlight reels, and it's, I mean, shit, like, even for me, it's like, when I post stuff, I'm always thinking about posting stuff that's gonna be useful to people, right? Like, is it gonna be valuable, useful? Are you gonna be able to do something with it? Maybe it's inspirational, but like, I like it to be practical too. But of course, like, I also don't want to find myself going like, guys, I've had a shitty day. Let me tell you about it, right? Like,
Right.
that usually doesn't inspire. But what I do like to do is go like, hey, here's this obstacle and problem that I've faced or I'm facing, and here's how I'm going to tackle it. And and like, here's the solution, the result that I'm going to go for, and maybe it's going to take me longer than I hope for, but guess what? We're going to keep working on it. Because it's like, it's too easy to just be like every fucking person that you look up to, and it's like, man, this person's just dialed in, you know, and they probably are in certain ways, but they're struggling with other things that maybe you have dialed in.
Right.
Going back to that kind of competence, courage. How do I know that I can do this talk? Well, I think that's why you got to kind of pat yourself on the back, and you have to live in that medium, right? That positive anxiety, like, this is what I want to achieve. We got to work on. But like, look at all these things that like I did today and this past month, which is also the reason why, tracking things to a certain degree is good, so that that,
Yeah.
right? Like, hey, shit, I did, everything from, you want to improve something? Well, guess what? Focus on it, track it, right? How many pages did you read this month? Damn, I read 4 pages last month. I read, 400 pages this month. Well, man, that's improvement, right? Hey, I worked out 2 times a week. Now I'm working out 4 times a week. Improvement, right? It's factual. It's not like a guess or an opinion or a feeling. It's like, it's real, which is like, hey, if you want to improve something, track it, pay attention to it, have some type of feedback that tells you if you're doing it, and more so the process than the result, right? Like, I feel like if you track, it's the same thing for nutrition as it is for anything else, right? I can't tell you exactly, whether you're going to lose weight and how much, and, nobody can really say that. But I guarantee you, if you follow this process and you do it like 80 to 90% of the time, that you will move in the direction that you want to move in. I guarantee that.
Yeah. It'll increase your probability of success.
Absolutely. And fill in the blank of what you want. More leads?
Right.
Cool. Let's make a plan, right? Process. Just stop like zoning in on the prize, per se, and focus on the process. Are you contacting this many people a day? Are you following up? Are you creating content and then, engaging with the people in that content and retargeting them? Do you have an offer? Are you making offers? Are you asking for the sale? Like, right? Let's track that. Let's track that. And then, month to month, this happens every time when we're coaching, like, damn, man, like, I started making 2 offers a week in my stories, and like, I got 5 times more leads than last month. Right. Well, yeah. Like, focus on the process. And, and then be consistent, let it compound, right? Especially because it's like, hey, I just started a business and like, I don't understand why I'm not getting 10 leads a month. Well, Like, what's your plan?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have one. All right, cool. Let's start there. You know what I mean? And then everything compounds. I mean, going back to, I know I'm, pulling from Naval's book here, but this is, I think me and Jay are so on, that's how we really connected too, is that we're so on the same page about building relationships, and how I feel it's one of the most important things you can, probably the most important thing that you can invest in and work on. Naval talks about it. Your most valuable thing in life is your relationship, period. And they compound too. And, there's always the question, Luka, how do you know everybody? Well, that's the answer, compounding. Like, I've been to over 250 live events, I create my own events, obviously, buy people's products, reach out to them, connect whenever I can. And over the course of, at least 15 years that I've been doing this in the US, is compounds,
Yeah.
right? Compounds, and more people and they're like, you have good relationships, they introduce you to more people, and it becomes
building leverage.
Yeah, exactly. And it becomes, exponential, right? At a certain point in time. It starts slow as hell though.
Right.
Right. It's like first 5 years, 3 years, it's challenging. But the thing is, your assets, meaning like, but let's look at like content assets, because we're, speaking to coaches here, you create assets and seminars and you record these things and ebooks and compounds, right? You put all these things out into the world. Guess what? It compounds your relational equity with the marketplace, right? Relationships compounds, money in the bank, or should I say, investments. Even if you're getting a 5% return a year, we know the compounding effect. That's where you know it from the finances, right? But it happens in every area of life. Your body compounds, right? It's like I've been lifting weights since I was 14 years old. So yeah, it's like it all of that. Like, if I fall off a little bit, it's not going to be a big deal. If I get hurt, I recover faster. I don't get sick much, right?
Yeah, you prevent injury too. Yeah.
Correct, exactly. But all of these are compounding things, and you got to look at your life and go like, okay, cool. Let's look at relationship compounding. Let's network building compounding, financial compounding, health compounding, assets for your business compounding. JV partnerships, you can kind of go all these different areas. But once again, like, it won't just happen if you don't focus on it. It won't just happen if you're just sitting around going like, oh, I hope these things happen.
Right.
Plan, right? I love this saying. It's like, if you have no path or plan, your default is struggle, right? Your default will be what got you here, right? That's a huge one with, when we do nutrition coaching, is like, well, listen, like, I'm gonna eat better. Well, no, let's create a plan. Let's have a path, and let's have a plan B, right?
Right.
Because what happens if plan A doesn't work out? Shit, life happens. Let's already know the plan B.
Yeah.
That's confidence right there. Okay, well, if I can't go eat this lunch at the cafe because the meeting goes longer, I got this pure protein shake and, an apple and whatever, making stuff up. But point being, you got a plan B, right?
Dude, I call those emergency snacks. That's what I call them.
Yep, there you go. That's it.
Yeah.
You got to plan for an emergency, right? Because it's like,
right.
to feel like nothing can go wrong. I mean, that in itself is arrogance.
Right.
Let's look at, I started this podcast late because shit went over, and like, I'm having meetings that I didn't think I'd have, and I'm like, all right, I can't. I know we got somebody coming to clean us up, but the gym's not looking right. Fucking, I'm gonna vacuum this place. Don't care, and I'm vacuuming and AirPods in, like dropping voice memos to people. It is what it is. Like, but guess what? I have to have plan B so that I can achieve the things that I need to achieve, right? So this is all, and I don't mind being like, repetitive. I really, really don't, because I think it was Don Miller that was saying, like, it takes people like 8 times to hear a thing not before they learn it, just register it, right? Register it. And one of the most powerful analogies, when I keep repeating myself, is like the watch and the wallet analogy, which is basically like your life, your commitments in life are currently shown by your watch and your wallet. Like, if I look at your calendar, your schedule, whether it's written or not, what you do, that's what you're committed to in a day, right? If you're on social media for 4 hours or scrolling, that's what you're committed to. You don't exercise, okay, it means you're not committed to that, right? Like, you say you want to improve your relationship, but you have no date nights, you don't have any blocked out time to spend with a person that you care about, not committed to that. Health and fitness, sleep, all these different things. But also, so that's your schedule. But then your wallet, like, where does your money go, right? Like, man, I really want to improve XYZ. Man, don't see a gym membership on here, or coach, or, stuff for doing it at home. or healthy food or whatever, right? Like I said, look, this is not even a judgment thing. This is like I do this often and go like, hey, I'm saying this, I'm looking at my watch and my wallet, shit's not aligning, I gotta make some changes, right? And I think it's important for people to consistently, quarterly, every half a year, go like, man, where's my time? Where are my time and money going? Because that's what I'm committed to. And I can look at those two and I can tell you where you're going to end up if you don't change it. I can tell you, guaranteed, right? Now you start shifting those around and that schedule changes and where the money goes changes. It's like I can tell you be in a better place a year from now, right? And you got to keep analyzing that because they don't, your video has to match your audio, and there's nothing worse in life from a perspective of even self-esteem, right? Both, I would say, as on a business side of things, there's nothing that creates more confidence than people saying stuff and then doing what they say and following through on what they say. Keeping your commitments is the most underrated, but also I would say, underrated or underappreciated, but maybe it's just something that, like, if you want to succeed as a business, do what you say and do it when you said you're going to do it. You're already ahead of like 95%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people will say that, man, like, because we live in a world where just so much is said and it just, you don't, live up to that. Right. So I think that's a massive, massive, massive key, right? Following through, but also on the self-esteem side, right? Because I think it was Dax Moy that kind of broke it down to me this way. And I love this, right? People say, Luka, how do you build self-esteem? And I was like, well, first of all, let's look at self-esteem as a debits and credits in a bank account, right? And it's not about what I say to you, Matt, right? It's like if I go like tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do a little conditioning session, right? And I wake up and I snooze it, okay? I snooze it, and then all of a sudden, like, fuck, it's too late, and I got to go to work, right? Well, what happened? It seems like a small thing, but I put a debit into my bank account of self-esteem, right? And if I keep doing that, right, I'm going to go bankrupt in self-esteem, right? Now, if I go, I'm going to get up and do the session and I do it, boom, credit, 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 credit. And the thing is, if you stack enough credits, guess what? Like, even if I mess up a bunch of stuff, it won't matter. I got too many credits in the bank account. If somebody goes like, yo, Luka, you suck at coaching, bro. You're probably one of the worst coaches ever. I'm completely unfazed.
Right.
My credits are stacked so high in that account that like it doesn't, it's like, pew, 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 it bounces off. You know what I'm saying? Like, but the thing is, even if you are a good coach, but there's a lot of stuff that, like, you haven't kept promises to yourself about, right? And somebody goes like, you suck as a coach. Now you're like, shit, maybe I do suck as a coach.
Right.
Right? Because you're bankrupt in self-esteem, and so the question, practically, once again, is like, well, how do I build my self-esteem back up? Well, start keeping your promises, but make smaller promises, right? Don't, hey, I'm going to drink a glass of water when I wake up. Seems like a small thing. Yeah, but do that 10 days in a row, you can feel better. You're going to start stacking those credits again, right? And maybe then make it a little bit bigger, which probably the best book written on habits, I still believe, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think 3 million copies sold confirms that.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
It's pretty insane, in this day and age. That's actually nuts.
Yeah.
But it's one of the books that we give when people sign up for our membership. We give them the Atomic Habits book because it really, and it's like he talks about that, right? Make smaller commitments and then just follow through on those commitments. And it starts building that habit where most folks are like, the mistake that happens is that your self-esteem is low and then you go like, now I'm going to do it. I'm going to start working out every day, man. Like, I'm going to, so these extremes, and you just don't have enough bandwidth for that or capacity for that. And of course, it's like you go and you fail. Boom, there's another huge, debit and debt in your self-esteem bank account. Rather than going like, look, man, I'm going to work out twice this week for 20 minutes, right? And maybe you actually end up doing 3. Well, guess what? Cha-ching, big win, right? But it's like making smaller commitments and sticking to those is how you get yourself out of a hole. Step number 1, to get out of a hole, stop digging. To me, digging is like, I haven't been able to do big things, and now I'm making even bigger commitments. Well, stop doing that. Make them smaller, right? Make them smaller and just start building up. Don't look at things over the course of a month or 3 months. Look at over the course of a year. Which is harder because people want shit now. Like, So I'm like a very like there's things I'm doing today. I know it's going to take year and a half, two before it comes to fruition or really gives me that like ROI in some way, whether it's money or fulfillment or whatever else, right? Like, and I think that people are like, well, yeah, but what can I get back in 8 weeks? And it's like,
Yeah.
that might be the wrong mentality, buddy.
Right.
You know, and it's JB like John Berardi was the person that said, one of the big life lessons is that we all kind of overestimate what we can do in a short term, and we drastically underestimate what we can do in the long term, right? So it's like, and you could go like short term could be like 3 months, 6 months. We overestimate what we can do in that time, right?
Right.
But we underestimate what we can do in like 10 years, or 5 years or something like that. And that's why if you kind of go like, all right, cool, this is my next couple years project, it's a lot less stressful than the like, okay, in the next 8 weeks, I gotta, fill in the blank, make 10 grand more per month. But, and the thing is, it's not like some of those things aren't possible, but just your mindset around it can, if especially if you have lower self-esteem, that's not going to fly,
Right.
and it's not like just my opinion here. Like, I mean, look, I'm a geek. I can pull out studies left and right because I'm always reading, I'm always studying, I'm always reading publications, you know. And of course, I think there's more than I think science, science for the win. But there's also a lot of shit. I was listening to some Joe DeFranco stuff, and we talked about this. Joe D like 20 years ago was like, or 15 years ago was like, heavy sled pushing makes you faster. And it was like, no, studies show. It was like, yeah, but I've done 20,000 like 10-yard accelerations, and we've seen this, right?
Right.
And then a decade later, it's like, studies come out like, yes, it's true. It's like
It catches up.
I saw it. So to me, I'm always studying and looking at that stuff. But I live in the lab. You know what I mean? Like I train people every day. I train myself every day. I coach people every day. Like every single thing, like I do it. Like I do it every day. It's not a theoretical thing for me, man. Like, I'm gonna go and coach a bunch more people today on all types of different goals, and then I'm gonna go and have a meeting about some collaboration business stuff, and I'm going to coach some people in our business coaching group, and it's every day.
Right.
So you learn through that experiential just as much, but it's smart to take I would say data and studies from the best of the best and use that, but also if you see something working, well, shit, keep doing it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I know, like I said,
go ahead.
I've gone on a lot of rants and hopefully kind of gelled it all together decently.
No, you're good, man. This is probably been the easiest podcast that I've ever had to do, but it's also been you've dropped some of the most knowledge as well. So, yeah, man, I appreciate that for sure.
My pleasure. It's always, I mean, the thing is like, right. I'm like, just look, as long as you got one question, we'll be fine.
just let you go, and then you're off.
If I'm caffeinated enough, which tends to be the case most days, it's gonna be no problem, buddy.
Vigor. I love it.
Absolutely.
That's great. Awesome, man. Well, I do want to respect your time. But real quick, where if people want to find out you and more find out more about you and your work, where can you point them towards?
I'll keep it to. So I mean, on Instagram, like I just share a lot of the stuff. I guess it's like and lead people to the different directions. But my vigor, or should I say my Instagram handle is at Luka Hocevar, so LukaHocevar. Also the vigor. So I have a couple of podcasts, but the main one is called the Vigor Life Podcast. We're at about 125 episodes. I do like I've done it for now. I think like 3 to 4 years, 4 years probably now. And it's pretty consistent. I mean, like this is part of the good and the bad is that I do so many different things. But it's like I have 3 or 4 podcasts in the chamber that just need to get dropped, whatever. But I will say it's become pretty damn big. It was never like the goal was for me to just get stuff out of my head. It's definitely for coaches. I mean, it's for everybody, but certainly like speaks to coaches more. I mean, you name it, whether it's training, program design. I got some of the best in the world on the podcast as well. I think you'll get a lot out of it if you're a coach, certainly.
You absolutely will. I loved the James Krieger's episode. It was great.
James was awesome, man.
Financial advice.
I said I wanted to, it's a weird switch up. We talked about nutrition and money.
Yeah.
Fucking great, but it worked out. And so like Vigor Life podcast is one for sure. I put a lot. So anything video that I do anywhere, short or long, goes on YouTube. So YouTube is the same thing. It's been like this ninth side hustle, and now we're at like 70 plus thousand subscribers. I just post everything on there. There's, if you want to get buried, like there's 1,400 videos. So
Yeah.
there's plenty of stuff to go through. I'd say those are the three main ones. If you guys want to check out the website for the gym, if you're a fitness enthusiast, you want to change your body, you live in Seattle, it's a good spot to go to. If you're a coach and you want to study quality SEO, and how to do things above the fold, and if you want to get real geeky with all these things, I think it's a good place to go as well. But it's vigorgroundfitness.com. So VIGOR groundfitness.com. You can check that out there. Honestly, like there's a bunch more stuff, but those are kind of like the main hubs that you can find just about anything through. It's worthwhile checking out. So Vigor Ground Fitness and Performance on Facebook, very active, mostly, like I said, fitness content. And that's grown significantly. But I shoot a ton of videos and drop those. Also, we will not almost. Let me take that almost out. Discuss myself with that. September 23 to 25 this year, we will be running the Vigor Ground Fitness and Business Summit. It's become, essentially one of the top seminars in the country.
I was at the online one.
Yeah, I love it. Appreciate you for coming on that, man. We had to flip it real quick, but it ended up being it was
so great.
And this, as much as I loved it, there's nothing better than face to face, skin to skin when it comes to events. So we are gonna, it's looking like that we won't have any issues with having people, like I said, it's September 23 to 25. Be on the lookout for that. If you're if you're in the fitness industry, this is, and like I'm obviously very, very biased here, but I promise you the lineups that we have are ridiculous. It's like not even every year people are like, hold up, is this really happening? Are these people there? And they do. They always show up. So
right.
And we sold out. The last one physically we sold out. So depending on how many spots, hopefully we can have 250 to 300 spaces based on what's going on in the world right now. But I'm very confident that's going to sell out. So when we drop it, like, man, be ready, because the tickets will go fast for sure. So I wanted to throw that out there because we're kind of in the, I won't say in a home stretch, but I want to give you some heads up.
I sure hope so, man. I sure hope so. And there's a good chance that I might be attending that, and hopefully I can shake your hand in person, right? Instead of through the screen. For sure. Luka, thank you so much for doing this. Everybody definitely go check his stuff out. And hope we can do it again soon, man.
Absolutely, my friend.